This is a Zoom recorder.
Okay.
Just a mic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's get started. Let's go.
Hey, GM everyone. I'm Salman and welcome to Salman Needs a Job. I'm here right now with Kishore, who is a venture consultant at Molecule DAO and has also founded something called Microbiome DAO recently. Molecule DAO is a major ecosystem that has funded a lot of DeSci projects like ValleyDAO, CryoDAO, BioDAO, all we'll hear about right now from Kishore. And we are currently here at Zugrama. We are both residents at Zugrama, a cross-disciplinary residency of sorts, a pop-up village where DeSci and longevity has been one of the key themes, and also in the middle of an experiment, a study called Microbiome study, which Kishore is very much involved in. So we'll hear about all of that, but more so learn about what is DeSci, who is it for, what kind of problems it solves, and what kind of opportunities are out there to get involved. So first of all, let's start with this. Just introduce yourself and what do you do currently?
Okay. I started as a biotech engineer, a drug developer, worked in different drug molecules, insulin, statins for cardiovascular disease, and then moved into probiotics development. And that's where I got interested in microbiome at first place. But then I felt like industry is not for me. I want to go deeper into the science process. I joined.
Just want to add that he's a very passionate microbiome ambassador.
Yeah, true. Yeah, because it touches my life in a very deeper point. Because once I moved to Germany for my academia, like my master's degree, I got into serious clinical depression due to the winter climate, not seeing sun and all of this pushed me into a serious depression. And then I came out by hacking my microbiome. And that was my first point into microbiome. And then what I found out during this process, there's a lot of bullshit in microbiome industry. And if you want to cut through this to seek the truth and improve your health, you need to do your own reading. So that's my main entry point into microbiome. Slowly I started as that, and I built a startup called Gutmood, where we tried to optimize the mental health of our users, which is coming from my journey. I wanted to help everyone. So we built a health style app, and then we basically failed with a lot of learnings. And then in this meantime, I was exploring decentralized science with Molecule as a venture fellow. And then this was a very exhilarating journey from 0 to 100, learned everything about DeSci, started working in GTM projects and all of that. And then I become a consultant now. And if you see, I've been passionate about microbiome and my career is in now DeSci. So the natural next step is to bridge both, right? Microbiome and DeSci. Yeah. That's where Microbiome DAO was born. Yeah.
So we'll get into the microbiome stuff. We want to understand that a little more deeply. But before that, Molecule DAO. Molecule DAO is one of the main primary names in the space when it comes to DeSci, right?
Yes. So Molecule DAO is not actually a DAO. It goes by Molecule DAO in Twitter, but it's not actually a DAO. It's a software company. What we do, we create the tech stack and all the sort of softwares that you need to play with decentralized science models, right? Like we have developed different models of funding and ways to commercialize IP, tokenize.
It's an enabler of
exactly enabler of DeSci. Yeah, that's how you can see. Yeah.
So help me understand DeSci. What is DeSci? I understand science a bit because I've studied 10 years of my life, forgotten everything. But decentralized science, what's happening? What is that?
Okay. So here let's take it in a dialogue, right? So in current scenario, where do you think science happens? Tell me the places where science happens.
I believe in research institutes and I guess mostly in research and also production of materials for diagnosing human beings.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically some pharma companies and research institutions like universities or some labs, right? So this is where science happens. And can you tell me who funds science?
I think the notion is, first of all, I think it's a very difficult process.
Yeah.
I think people find it challenging to work on scientific things. Who funds? I don't know, but I guess pharma is very much involved.
Yeah. So basically you have investors and sometimes for research institutions, there are government funding agencies which invest. But if you look back into really deeper, who funds science, it is us, citizens. We pay the money as tax, and this tax money get collected by the government and then re-spent into pushing science.
Got it.
So But now the question is, do you have any say in the scientific process? Being understood that you pay for the science, do you have any dialogue with the scientist or the science process?
Well, not really. Yeah.
Not really, right? No one has.
Yeah.
Generally, we don't know what's happening in the science labs, and we are very much disconnected from scientists, right? And science. But we use science in every aspect of our life, even the mic, the camera, the phone, and all of it. Like, it comes out of science. All the drugs that we use. And the decentralized notion comes from this very important fact that science is disconnected. The connection between citizens and science does not exist.
Okay.
So the idea is to decentralize science, to bring it back to the citizens. But if you want to bring it back to the citizens, there are some gatekeepers you need to, avoid. Who are these gatekeepers? As I said, investors, pharma companies, big granting agencies from the government like NIH and all of this, right? So to replace these gatekeepers in DeFi, in banking sector, they removed this with blockchain and introduced cryptocurrencies.
Right.
So we use the same thing for DeSci, using blockchain as our one source of truth, a trustless system where everything is transparent and trustless, and whatever you put in cannot be hacked or immutable. So because of this reason, we trust in blockchain to connect citizens and science. Now the money does not go to the government, it goes directly to the scientist. With the money, the citizen can tell, okay, this is what I want. This is my problem. This is what I want. Please invent a solution for me.
Got it. Okay.
Because if you look deeper into this, the scientific funding is very asymmetrical. Certain areas of health, human health, is not researched or does not get enough attention. Take men's health. Do you know any projects or any companies who do research on men's health or even women's health? No, not really.
Okay.
There's not much funding. Most of the funding goes into cancer, diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, which are known to be like very prevalent, right?
So very underrepresented in terms of actual interests of people.
Exactly. That's where we bring in to listen from the citizens. What is their real problem? And then the science should invent for that problem. And that is the major goal of decentralized science.
Before that, just to clarify, I said I studied 10 years of science in school for standard to 10th.
Okay.
Not any form of advanced studies.
Okay.
So help me understand the mechanics you said using blockchain, powering decentralized science, and to maybe illustrate it like through projects that you're a part of and all that, like how these things work.
Yeah. So, for example, imagine hair loss is a very big problem for you, right? It is a problem for all of us, right? So, but if you go and ask a government body to fund hair loss research, they will say, hair is not a big problem for us. We would not fund it, right? Like, we have bigger things we want to fund. So you spent money, you paid taxes to get solutions for you, but it didn't happen. So in this case, what we do is we kind of created a crowdsourcing platform, like crowdfunding platform, where scientists can come put up their projects, say, I want to solve hair loss problem. And then you connect them with users who say, I want this hair loss problem to be solved. Connect both of them. And then the funders or the citizens would fund this project. And then the funding money goes to the scientist. And then the scientist can go to the lab, do research and all of that. And something will come out of this. An invention would come out of this. What we do, we put this invention on blockchain. Right? So that in that invention, there are contracts saying that these were the funders. This is the scientist who received the funding. So we both agree to the terms that we will respect this sort of ownership conditions or governance terms or whatever, right? This contract alone goes into blockchain so that no one can change the terms at a later point. Apart from that, rest all happens in real
relationship
world.
between the individual who is interested in like solving for something like this and the people who are working on it is now like substantiated on chain.
Yeah, you are on a platform where you can create a dialogue now. So blockchain is just as a layer to put these IP or like intellectual property or even these contracts that we are getting into, so that no one can change the terms later on at some point, right? That's the only place where we use blockchain. But there is another use case for blockchain here is what? we want to tokenize the intellectual property or the invention. Let's say now something came out. There were 100 funders who funded the project. What do they get? So progressing science is fine. They funded, but they need to have some sort of
incentive for us to also be participate.
Yeah, there should be.
So people who care, people who participate are actually like involved in like the upside as well.
Exactly. So we call it governance rights. So as a
not upside, more so governance.
Yeah. So when you pay this money, right? Like let's say you paid $1 for this research, you get $1 worth of tokens that represents the project.
Got it.
Okay. What you can do with this token, you cannot make ownership claims. The ownership is with the inventor and parties involved in it. But what you get in return is governance rights, the power to govern the project. Let's say this hair loss or hair research brought some invention that you can now make it into a shampoo or sell this to a startup or a hair shampoo making company. All this decision will be taken by you as a funder.
So you can dictate the direction of the project.
Exactly. It's not like dictate. It's more like you control it. Let's say the inventor comes with a proposal saying that let's do this, let's make it into a startup, or let's do something out of this, right? And then you as a funder has voting rights. It's a very democratic process where you vote with your token to say, should we do it or not do it? Imagine when this situation is not about a hair loss shampoo, but it is about a life-saving vaccine. Right? This is what we need as citizens. We need the power to control the direction of that vaccine. It should not go into pharma's hands so that they dictate the price. It should be with people. People should have the power to dictate the stem. Even if they decide it should go free for the rest of the world, they can do it. That's the governance power you get.
So I want to learn more about like more benefits. But before that, so since we are in like talking about like as individuals, like being able to like get involved, what other ways can people get involved in DeSci? Like generally, I feel like ever since buying like a certain token and everything, just joining, of course, voting on some of these proposals and also like joining the Discord and all that, you're finding opportunities to kind of participate. Like who tell me about some of the opportunities as individuals and also as scientific professionals, just in general to participate, and then we'll get into some specifics.
Okay. So, how can you participate? If you are a scientist, if you are seeking for funding, if you are fed up with granting agencies waiting for funding for 6 months, then you can go sort of DeSci path and then get funded with the sort of decentralized science mechanics.
How would that work, for example?
So there are different platforms. So with Molecule, we have created a platform called Catalyst, where you can post your project with all the sort of write-up, like what's your research impact, what this would mean for the community, how much money you are asking, what are the deliverables that you are committing to, at the end, what we will get. All these sort of things you describe, you put it on the platform. It's like a crowdfunding platform. And then people will come read this. If they think this is something that is really touching them personally, or if this is something that they want to have a power to govern this, they can come with their crypto money and then fund it.
At what stage of the project they do this? Like, does the project needs to be like already in development or already at certain stage, or it can?
So there are projects coming from different levels. You can sometimes see projects which are close to commercialization. Sometimes in certain field like longevity or aging research, you need to do a lot of foundational stuff to build on top of it. So if this generation do foundational research, next generation can do commercialization on top of it. So in that case, you need to fund foundational research, which is very fundamental and basic. But in some cases, we also have application-oriented projects which you can fund.
Okay. So it's also scientific projects are usually like very, very long. So how is this whole participation like? I think most people are not like. Can you paint a picture about that?
So that's where it gets tricky, because it's not like another meme coin where prices go 10x tomorrow and then you can sell it, dump it. That is not possible with DeSci. It's more like a blue chip token. You need to hold for a long time. And everyone who is participating should understand there is a lot of risk involved in it, because not all science endeavors ends in a positive result. Sometimes there can be negative results as well. So I think it is something funders should be mindful of before putting their money into. And if they are very bullish on this tech, if it is something that is really affecting their life that they want to invest on this, I think they can participate.
I want to make this segment more useful to scientific professionals, just like listening to this potentially and thinking of, hey, how can I get involved? So first, can you tell me about like the sentiment in general from the scientific community towards DeSci? Is it like is it the problem you presented in the beginning is very compelling, but is that also like shared in the scientific community? And DeSci, is it actually getting like real adoption, or is it just like a crypto thing right now?
So there are a lot of different scientists who are actually coming into DeSci. So with Molecule, what we are doing is only the funding side of the traditional science problem. There's also another problem called publishing. So when you do research, you need to communicate these results. You usually publish it in a publishing house, and then these publishers put a price tag in front of your paper, so that you need to buy this sort of subscription to go read these scientific papers, which we funded, basically. So this sort of gatekeeping has stopped data sharing and open science processes. So this publishing is a big problem, which scientists have understood, and a lot of people have onboarded into this sort of publishing framework, which is decentralized, called ResearchHub. So they are solving one of this big problem. And in the funding side is where Molecule comes in, where we try to make this entire funding process very streamlined. So our ultimate goal was scientists should focus on doing science, not in writing grants. Right, that was the biggest idea behind this. So the adoption is quite. I think it's a pioneering stage. If you look at, I can list out some universities: University of Zurich, Tel Aviv University, and you have University of King's College London. You have University of Washington. So you have big universities who are coming in to participate in the sort of DeSci movement, right?
Mainstream adoption
Exactly.
incoming.
Mainstream adoption is happening at the moment, and it is not enough. We need to take it to different places, and it has to be way more democratized. Now if you look at a DeSci community, it's primarily either Web3 players who have a wallet. You need to have a wallet to interact, or a scientist who is seeking for funding. But I think we need to onboard more of ground level interactors with the science product, who are patient groups, citizens. They should come on board and then create a democratic process, in questioning, in creating a better product. And all of this, I think it should get more democratized. Yeah.
Can you help me understand how to actually get involved and learn? For example, scientists or even individuals want to participate. Now they're watching this podcast and they're thinking about a certain scientific problem that they think they want to get involved in. How do they look for projects? And even if they're a project developer themselves, how do they get into this ecosystem and all that?
Okay. So that's where the DAOs come in. So DAOs are another Web3 term for communities, which have their own governance and stuff. So
digital organization, on the blockchain.
Digital organization on blockchain. To me, a DAO is a community within community. So within a DAO, you can have different communities and align to a particular focus area. Okay. For example, if hair loss is a problem, then hair DAO. If longevity is your problem, Vita DAO. If you have women's health as your problem, there is Athena DAO. Okay. So for microbiome, we have Microbiome DAO. So I can spin up a story on how Microbiome DAO as a place where people can come and contribute and participate. So look at this as communities of different kinds. So you have community of researchers and scientists within the DAO because they think microbiome science should be pushed. And the next you have patient groups who go through some sort of microbiome disorder. They'll also be part of this microbiome DAO. So you also have Web3 developers who also have microbiome as a focal point. They'll also participate in. You have marketing leads. All these people come from different professions, but their focal point is microbiome.
Got it.
Okay. So Microbiome DAO has collection of these different experts within. So just imagine when an idea comes out, we are looking at an idea. Okay, how good it will be if we invent a drink that can fix all our microbiome problem if we keep drinking it every day, right? Someone is proposing this. What happens is you have a scientific community within which is going to de-risk this project, saying that, okay, no, this is not true. We need to look at the experiments deeper. And they will also say, okay, look at these experiments. These are extra costs. We can cut this. So in this way, you de-risk the entire project to succeed better, right? Why? The scientist or the scientific community within DAO has a stake in the DAO's success because they are getting tokens in return. Their token value would go up. So because of that, they work for benefiting the community and success of the project. Now, let's say we funded the project. We take it to people to approve the funding. People will ask questions, right? In a democratic way. Why should I do this? Can you improve this? I like this taste. I like it to be in this consistency, right? This can also be here, product development. And then once all of this is done, research is done, you got an end product. If you want to commercialize it, you have developers, you have builders within the community who can take up this project, create a startup, develop into a product. You want to test with users, you have end users within your community where you can test your product and launch your product. Think of it as like a big innovation vehicle where from idea to product can be done within one community because the community has all different segments within. So that's the power of a DAO. So if you want to participate in DAO, there are 3 ways that you can participate. One, as a funder, you can come fund the project, get some tokens in return, and then you can come as a contributor. What do I mean by contributor? You come in, work for the DAO like an employee. You get salary, right? You get money for the working in the DAO.
So any form of work,
any form of work,
marketing work, and all
the
that.
DAO's goals. Yeah. Let's say if you're a marketing expert, we need marketing support. You can work for us and get money, right? If you're a scientist, you can come work with us to help us de-risk the project or bring new science projects to the community. So, and then if you're an end user, you get benefited from the products that we are developing, right? And the third class is mostly we are calling them as biome miners. So these are the people who would contribute health data in a way that to progress scientific research, because these are the people who would participate in these sort of different trials, testing products and getting discounts for the products that they built. So there are like 3 groups in which you participate. 1, you need to put money. 2, you need to sweat for the DAO. 3rd, you need to contribute by participating in the DAO's process. So 3 ways you can participate in this DAO.
Super, well illustrated. Now let's talk about, I think good time to talk about Microbiome DAO and what you're doing. But before that, just let's start with Zugrama. You're here and we are part of this groundbreaking experiment. We are all contributors represented through a POAP. I'll link it up, and all other links also from the chat today. I'll link it up. So so what's happening? How did you end up in Zugrama, and what is this whole microbiome craziness going on?
Yeah, so when there was another longevity village in Berlin, I used to live in Germany. I wanted to really go there, but I didn't get the chance to go there. I missed it due to different reasons. And when I heard that Zugrama is happening, I just applied. I want to be part of this thing. And then after coming here, I realized there's going to be a microbiome experiment. And then soon we decided as a microbiome DAO. So we decided, okay, this is one project that microbiome DAO should really invest. It should be our first project. Because look at this, it's a very decentralized science in its way, the maximum it could be, because it's a bottom-up experiment. People are
describe the experiment.
So the experiment is basically we are going to test if short-term dietary interventions, that means if you follow a healthy diet for 2 or 3 weeks, will it improve your gut health, right? Gut microbiome health. That's the whole goal of the study. So what we are doing, we are going to follow a very much curated diet, which is only of good food, healthy food, lot of fibers and all of this, no processed food. no packaged food, no restaurant food, fast food.
Surprisingly, still tasty food.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a tasty.
We are here, like, resided at a little village, Hayat in Trivandrum.
Yeah. So everyone in the experiment will follow this food. And before the experiment started, we all did a microbiome testing to see how it was in the beginning. And then after 3 weeks, we will do another microbiome testing and then to see what sort of change it has caused, right? And with this, it's also to give a personal reflection to our users or participant in the study, how important is microbiome health, how it can be fast or quick adaptable with diet and lifestyle change. But not only that, for the scientific community and the whole science domain, how can we come together as a community and do these sort of scientific process bottom up? Rather than someone dictating this is a trial that you should go for, rather than you as a community come up saying that I want to understand, I want to push science, I want to do something for this scientific domain, let's do something. And then microbiome is one field that we are exploring here.
Super. Yeah. I love what's happening over here. Just also shout outs to everyone, Yash, Jagan, Decodeja, all of these guys who have organized it. And also, like, just Popup City, like, I didn't come in with any form of intimation about, like, this experiment that was about to happen. Whereas it turns out, like, we are part of this, like, crazy, awesome study, like, totally serendipitously opt-in, and being able to contribute into this potentially to the DAO as well. So, like, you wrote about that recently, right?
Yes.
These pop-ups being a test bed for doing something like this. Can you help understand that?
Yeah, I called it pop-up science. Why pop-up science? Because these pop-up cities have a unique case in doing this sort of research. Why? Because now people are coming in for a shorter duration. It's a temporary setup where people are going to live. And in these places, people are more aligned to do experimentation, right? The community is that sort of vibe. That's why we have like 50 plus participants who wanted to do this, because people are innately driven to do experimentation with their biology, life, or technology, whatever. They are ready to do experimentation. So that's why I think these pop-up cities that are happening across the world could be the first place to develop this sort of model where, imagine a marketplace. Just imagine a marketplace where, so currently clinical trials happens in a way a pharma company would say, see, I discovered a drug. I want to test it on you guys to see whether it has an impact or not. Okay, this is how clinical trials happen. Let's not take drugs here. Let's just take simple lifestyle habits and diet or different hacks that we have, and then whether to see if there is an improvement or not. In this case, people can join hands saying that, okay, there is an experiment idea that a researcher is proposing. If we are willing to take this, we can take this. If not, it's fine. But you can take this experiment and do it. And when you contribute to the science, what's happening is you are creating a wedge in this entire scientific ecosystem, because until this point, something like this have never happened, where every time it has to come from bottom up. But here, this is the first time where things would happen in a very different way. People gather together saying that I want to solve this, I want to understand this, I want to push this, I'm going to take up this project, test this, and report back, right?
Yeah.
It's also easier for an experimentation to happen. Why? Because we are living in a very controlled setup. We are living in a hotel. If it has been somewhere out in the outside, like not in the hotel, still you will live in as a community within a restricted space. You will be breathing the same air, same water. You are in close contact, and all of this. This reduces a lot of noise that comes with generally clinical trials where everyone would sit at their home, not reporting properly. You don't even know whether they took the drug, tested it, or
You have to fill a form every day.
We need to track everything, right? So I think this pop-up science model is really mind-blowing in my opinion, because this is going to be so big. Yeah.
So actually, just to add to that, like some context, pop-up villages are taking place all over the world, similar settings around different themes and similar environments where people across like a certain shared interest is congregating, and this is what you're describing in terms of the environment, and that is offering everything that you described.
Exactly. Yeah. So So as I said, this free marketplace for Popup Science would look like this. Some researcher say, I want to see what happens if I eat dosa every day in the morning, which is a fermented food. If I keep eating dosa every day in the morning, what happens to my gut? Someone wants to find out if this dosa could be a superfood, right?
Okay.
So what he proposes, okay, this is the experiment that I want to do. If you are participating in this experiment, you need to do a microbiome testing or some sort of testing, and you need to eat dosa made in certain way every morning. Okay, this is the experimental rule. And he has also created a bounty because a dosa company wants to commercialize dosa and see the benefit of dosa.
Full flywheel.
Exactly. So they come and put the funding for this. This is an incentive, right? And now you can set a bounty for these people who wants to join the experiment. If you participate in the experiment successfully, if you complete this experiment, you would get free dosas for 1 year.
Also a potential business model for these pop-up villages.
Exactly. It's a potential business model. In the same way, you are driving science in a very faster, rapid rate, in a very real world setup, right? It's where, and also it's very multi-ethnic and cosmopolitan, right? Like all these pop-up cities, they have different people coming from different communities and who are intrinsically motivated to do experimentation. I think this is very mind-blowing in my opinion. So here, the Zugrama pop-up experiment, the Pugrama experiment that we are doing is kind of a model for other pop-up cities to, take up and build on top of this.
Actually, this is something I wanted to ask you earlier. I think I should still, which is like, as a scientific professional who is like proposing to a DeSci community or using this method to launch their project and everything, how about their own careers? Like, how is it different from like a traditional scientific professional? Of course, there are like more different types of stakeholders. Tell me about from stakeholder perspective as well as their own incentive perspective.
So,
and also maybe the sustainability of the project.
Yeah. So as a scientist, if you are onboarding into decentralized science community or trying to do project in this way, you have a long path in your career. Why? Because with the communities, if you are doing good science, you can commit them to do consecutive fundings for your project. So, for example, we had a project with the DAO, which started as a simple idea, like a simple research project, which progressed and created an intellectual property. And then two founders came out and then they picked up the project. They created a startup out of it. And then now they are spinning the startup. Now they are raising $1 million fund to take the startup. And then you see there is a startup way to exit out of this and then create real products at the end. Yeah. So I think it's a long process and it is definitely sustainable in that case. But one thing you should remember is if you are doing science in a very interesting way, you should be also appealing to the users or the funders in that sort of interesting way, right? Because that is also very important for you to survive in this DeSci community where people have a short attention span and you need to commit them why this is important. If you can communicate that very efficiently, I think you have a long career for any scientist or researcher in DeSci.
Thank you so much for taking us through DeSci and everything else.
Cool.